Hello all, welcome to Wi-Fi Challenge 3 solution. So we broke up this challenge into two parts, 3A and 3B, right? And 3A was called Never Judge a Packet by its Type. And if you recall, this consisted of two packets, shared key authentication packets. The first one was of course the challenge request, which was sent by the access point. And the second one was the encrypted challenge response. And the whole idea was, is it possible to crack web with just these two packets? Now the solution, well, there could be two. The easiest which I can think about is to use something like Scapy to rewrite the packet into a data packet, and then use what we did in a previous video to crack web using just one web encrypted packet, right? That is the easiest solution I can see. The second solution is actually to write your own RC4 encryption decryption routine, take the IV and then go ahead through that whole passphrase list which we had, create the key stream, encrypt the text, check the ICV and things like that. The other reverse version is to actually use the IV and one of the possible encryption keys and decrypt the packet, check if the ICV matches. Now we come to challenge 3B, which is never send a noob to do a hacker's job. Now this was a bit interesting because we had given you a truncated data packet. So how would we go about solving this? Now if we go back and look at the trace file, you would notice that the packet is actually a broadcast packet, right? And if you start collecting a couple of traces on your own for networks you have access to and have the key, you would eventually conclude that this is an ARP packet. And because of that, some of these fields are very predictable if you remember previous videos. As an example, you basically had the LLC header which was there in the beginning. That was entirely predictable. Then you also have the ARP packet, of which couple of header fields are predictable. Why? Because typically if it's broadcast, high probability it's an ARP request packet. So using all of this, now let's kind of go back to our challenge. So how do we solve it? Well, to begin with, the packet size indicates it's ARP. Destination is broadcast, which means it cannot be a reply. It has to be a request or a GRAT-ARP packet. Then finally, we know couple of bytes of the ARP packet and of course the LLC header which is there before it. So which means we know probably around 8 to 10 bytes, so a little bit more than that of the packet. But let's not worry about the entire figure. Let me try and impart to you the concept I had in mind. So we, from that one broken data packet, partial data packet, what do we have? We have the IV and then we have part of the encrypted text. We also have part of the plain text based on the LLC header as well as part of the ARP header, right? Using this, we can find the key stream probably up to the first 10 or 15 bytes. I still don't remember the exact calculation, but around 10 to 12 bytes probably. So how do we crack this challenge? Well, run a quick thought experiment. So let's say we know the IV, which we do, and now we have this big dictionary through which we want to try the entire cracking process. So we take the IV and key 1, concatenate them and run it through RC4. Now what you will notice is that this would produce a stream of bytes which is actually nothing but your PRNG, which needs to be XORed with the plain text to get the encrypted text. Now if I just take the first byte for various different keys but the same IV, you would notice that byte 1 would differ whenever we take a different key. But if you think about it, what are the number of possibilities for byte 1? 0 to 255. which actually means the more number of keys I take, there would be many cases in which same IV different key would have the exact same byte 1 value. It has to be, right? Because you could take millions of keys and then along with the IV you're creating a key stream of just one byte, the first byte, which only has possibilities between 0 to 255. So for any key 1 there exists a key n if you take the same IV, where byte 1 generated because of key 1 and the IV will be same as byte 1 generated because of key n and the IV, right? Now let's take byte 2. Similarly, possibilities may exist. Now of course, if you take byte 1 and byte 2, that is 2 bytes together, then the probability that 2 keys with the same IV would go ahead and collide, of course, decreases for a small sample of keys which we may take. But for an infinitely long set of key possibilities, there would again exist a key n in which byte 1 and byte 2 would match exactly the same as for the key 1. And the reason is, well, if you take there are 256 possibilities per byte, then this is nothing but 256 square different possibilities. And if you take millions of keys with the same IV, of course you are going to find many collisions. Some of you may also kind of remember the birthday attack, where these collisions may happen faster than you would probably imagine. Now, to be honest, the bytes are not purely random, they are pseudo-random, simply because there is an algorithm to it. It is just that it is not easily reversible, and that's the reason why we are doing symmetric key encryption with it. So where am I getting to with it? Well, we could get, let's say, till byte 10, and then we apply our dictionary and then figure out the key stream each key gives us to the first 10 bytes, right? And then compare it with what we are seeing in the packet based on the knowledge of the given plain text. But the contention here, unfortunately, is even if you have 10 bytes, you could still have other keys which could also generate the first 10 bytes of the key stream exactly the same. Now, typically, if you had the entire web packet, you would have verified whether this is the right key or not by decrypting till the web ICV, which is the end of the data packet, and then you would check the ICV value by going through the process all by yourself. In this case, we are unable to verify it, right? Because we don't have the ICV in entirety. So the solution to 3B is, the possibility exists that a specific key, I don't remember the value, I think ZXMNG or something like that, could be a solution based on the first 8 or 10 bytes of key stream you have found, but we can never deterministically say that it is the solution. Also, if it were the key if it were one of the possibilities, there also exist other possibilities. Now, the longer the key stream which you get, with which you can verify a particular key one for a given IV, the higher the probability that it might end up being the actual key. Now, I am not a cryptographer, but I am very sure that there could be some kind of a test for RC4 that after particular bytes of key stream generated, the whole set which we have, let's say n bytes, 100, 200, 300, there could be some proof which says that, well, after n, this becomes pretty unique for a given key. I'm not aware of it, I have not read something like that, but for the number of bytes we are talking about, definitely not. There would have to be more collisions, right? So this is how solution 3B, which is you can never be entirely sure. Now, reducing the problem to the fact where I said, well, if there is a web key, it would exist in the dictionary, then that one key, ZXMNG or something, is definitely one of the possibilities. Once again, possibility, because you can never really verify without the ICV or without any other packet, right? So I was thinking actually to do the entire hands-on demo But to be honest, after going ahead and looking at Andrew, Patrick, and Daniel's video, I really think me again going through the entire process would just be an overkill. These guys have very brilliantly shown everything. Andrew, Daniel, and Patrick specifically has taken the time to actually create a very long video. Thanks a lot, Patrick. And we all await your Scapy video, and from Andrew as well, a lot of interesting things. Daniel unfortunately only solved 3A because I think he could not get more time. And we have another person, Corey, who goes with the email address zai-worm, who also solved this challenge. So a big congratulations to all the 3 winners. Andrew King from USA, who goes by the name Andrew on our website, Corey, Zai-worm, and then you have Patrick, who's from Austria, and then Daniel, who's from Germany, who goes with the name 3IL060. Corey, I'm still waiting for your video. So you promised you would post it later this week. So hopefully you will, for the benefit of everybody. Show us what you've done and how you did it. And I'm sure all of us can learn a lot from it, like we've done from Andrew, Patrick's, and Daniel's video. So before I end this, of course, if any of you really want me to work out this entire challenge, let me know. I think the code which Andrew and others have provided is quite sufficient to solve this challenge. There is nothing more to it. Coming back, what I really liked is the information sharing which actually happened and the helping out each other during this challenge. And I really enjoyed reading all your comments. At times it's difficult for me to kind of proactively respond because I'm kind of into other things as well at the same time. But I really enjoyed this challenge because of the way in which everybody interacted, helped each other, and I really look forward that this is how we are going to build this community together. Right? So awesome job, guys. Absolutely awesome. And stay tuned. I'm going to be posting the next video shortly and also the next challenge. So I guess that's all for this video. Thank you. Leave your comments behind, any suggestions you may have. Bye-bye.